And I suppose I should stop right there. But I've never done the smart thing, so let's pray. God of light and life, open our eyes as well as our ears, so that we may not only hear your word today, but then see your word lived out in our lives and in your world, through Christ our Lord, the light of the world. Amen. This morning, Epiphany Sunday, I'm reading from the Gospel according to Matthew, the second chapter, beginning with the first verse. You can find that on page 956 of your pew Bibles. Hear now God's word to us as it comes from the pen of Matthew. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. And they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. May God bless us in this reading of this holy word. For generations unnumbered, human beings have searched the night sky for meaning. Our ancestors discerned the forms of animals, of heroes, and gods in clusters of stars. And some went even further, imagining that the alignment of stars and planets on babies' birthdays somehow hinted at what their lives would be like. That's very likely what caused the Magi of Matthew 2 to journey to Judea. Whether or not they were priests of Persia or ancient Zoroastrians, it doesn't matter. But it does seem clear that they were also astrologers. Matthew's account of the star moving, then hovering over Bethlehem is likely his astronomically naive account of an astrological reading. Now, that is not to say, of course, that the Bible puts any stock in astrology. It doesn't. Matthew seems to understand the star's behavior as a miracle rather than celestial science. Humanity's ancient and enduring fascination with the starry heavens could be soon endangered, though. The culprit? Light pollution. Astronomers have long had to cope with encroaching artificial light from street lights and car headlights and advertising signs. Think Las Vegas. The result has been to locate observatories on barren mountaintops and remote areas, far from the nighttime glow of urban and suburban sprawl. Pilgrims who visit Christ in the desert remark with wonder how bright those stars are. Christ in the desert is a Benedictine monastery in northern New Mexico, which is located in the high desert, more than 20 miles off a paved highway. On a cloudless night, which there are many in a place like that, you can walk around at 3 a.m. without a flashlight and clearly see the path ahead of you. Add a full moon to that picture, and the way becomes even clearer. There are actually dark sky preserves at various remote locations around the world, including the United States. And some of the great national parks in the West bear this designation, including parts of the Grand Canyon, Death Valley, and Joshua Tree National Monument. For urban people, perpetually dazzled by the glare of streetlights and headlights, traveling to one of these starlit locations is truly a revelation. But now, even the most remote telescopes may have difficulty in scanning the heavens, and the dark sky preserves could become a thing of the past. The problem is still artificial light. But now, the light is coming from a different place. It's coming not from the earth, but from the sky itself. The SpaceX company has started launching not just single satellites into orbit, but great orbiting arrays. Last summer, the company launched an array of 60 500-pound satellites into orbit. Eventually, it plans to place thousands of these mini satellites into the night sky. And the plan is to bounce radio signals off of them to improve internet access here on Earth. That's what we need, greater internet access. But the radio signals are not the only thing that bounce off these satellites. Each one of them is powered by solar panels. And these panels not only collect sunlight in their photovoltaic cells, they also reflect some of that light back to Earth. Amateur stargazers can already glimpse these new workhorses of the internet, trudging like a pack train across the night sky right in front of their familiar constellations. The SpaceX people have gone so far as to describe their handiwork as a new constellation. They call it Starlink. Starlink satellites are tiny, of course, compared to the size of real stars, many of which are larger than our own sun. But they are a lot closer, of course. A 500-pound satellite in low Earth orbit can appear brighter than a gas giant thousands of light years away. Astronomers and amateur stargazers are not amused. They're rallying to oppose these new plans. For a long time, enters the frame, and it renders the photo useless. Now, as hundreds and soon thousands of mini satellites show up in their field of view, they're afraid that it may become impossible to snap a photo of the natural sky. They'll no longer be able to see the real stars they're looking for because of so many artificial ones that just simply get in the way. A recent article on this problem puts it this way. Quote, Elon Musk, SpaceX's founder and chief executive, has offered assurances that the satellites will only be visible in hours after sunset before sunrise, and then just barely. But the early images led by many satellites to question his assertions. The first captured images, for example, reveal a train of spacecraft as bright as Polaris, the North Star. And while a press officer at SpaceX said the satellites will grow fainter as they move to higher orbits, some astronomers estimate that they will be visible to the naked eye throughout the summer nights. The satellites can even flare, briefly boosting their brightness to rival that of Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, when their solar panels are oriented just right. Astronomer Kelsey Johnson warns in the New York Times, with populations swelling and demands for lighting increasing, the global amount of artificial light at night has been growing by at least 2% per year. And at this rate, the amount of light pollution originating from Earth-based sources will double in less than 50 years. Johnson points out that artificial light endangers not only human health and our environment, but also extorts a philosophical cost. I think, he writes, there is an existential cost. A dark night sky, unpolluted by artificial light and thousands of artificial satellites, serves as a visceral reminder that we are part of something unfathomably large, that our petty differences on this tiny speck of a planet are ultimately insignificant. In the face of the universe, human arrogance is absurd. I don't know about you, but I've experienced the brilliance of a dark environment out in the high desert when the star field was just ablaze. And it was like, it was daytime. And it had that effect of really putting me in perspective. And Johnson is really fearful that we might lose that sense of scope and perspective. But Elon Musk has defended his company's plans as being for the greater good, supplying internet access all over the world. And there's an argument to support that. But it also comes at a cost. Some astronomers are asking, whose greater good? Dr. Tyler Nordman is one of the astronomers questioning SpaceX's plans. Who has the right to decide that? The night sky has the power to help make people feel awe. He points out that a star-filled night sky reminds us that we are part of a much larger whole, that we are one person in a world of people, surrounded by the vast depths of the visual universe. It's the same feeling the ancient writer of Psalm 8 expresses. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? It's the feeling experienced by the Magi of old, is rising and have come to pay homage to him. We know very little about the Bethlehem star. What sort of astronomical configuration exactly may have excited the attention of those learned Persian stargazers? Well, although, of course, there are many fascinating theories. Surely we don't need to understand the science behind the phenomenon, though, to grasp the luminous feeling of awe that spills over to our earthly spirits as we contemplate the heavens. Now, we've just come out of a Christmas season filled with glowing distractions of our minds. All of the trappings of the secular holiday we know so well. These lesser constellations in the night sky of our faith, they are not bad things in and of themselves. But we all know they have the potential to turn our gaze away from things that truly matter. When the Magi gazed up into the heavens, plotting their star charts, the backdrop to the Bethlehem star was every bit as dark as the sky still is above the Grand Canyon or Death Valley for that matter. Yet what if it had been otherwise? What if they had to contend with light pollution? What if a string of flashing satellites had commanded their attention instead? Here's the point I'm trying to make. So many of the distractions of the secular holiday are like those orbiting satellites. Light pollution obscuring the true light, the light of the world. These distractions are cheap, tawdry ornaments that encroach on a glistening Christmas tree filled with family heirlooms. Who amongst us do not have an ornament decorated by our child in first grade? We do well to keep our field of view unobstructed, our vision pure of the true star that we seek. Way back in 1959, light years ago, the great Jewish scholar Abraham Joshua Heschel had a foreboding of what was to come. Writing in Between God and Man, he warns, quote, "The awareness of the grandeur and the sublime is all but gone. We teach our children how to measure, how to weigh. We fail to teach them how to revere, how to sense wonder and awe. The sense for the sublime, the sign of the inward greatness of the soul, is now a rare gift. Yet without it, the world becomes flat, and the soul a vacuum. Here is where the biblical view of reality must serve as our guide. To remain spiritually healthy, we must pay close attention to what we're seeing. We must preserve our access to the visions that inspire awe in our hearts. We must be present, not the gift wrapped and stored under a Christmas tree, but rather present, alive in the moment, aware with all of our spiritual senses. The French Christian philosopher Simon Weil, writing in Gravity and Grace, celebrates the spiritual importance of attention. Attention, taken to its highest degree, is, quote, the same thing as prayer. It presupposes faith and love. Absolutely unmixed attention is prayer. If we turn our mind towards the good, it is impossible that little by little, the whole soul will not be attracted, therefore, refers to Augustus, or Gus, as her star-crossed love. Now that's you may recognize as a famous phrase from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. William Shakespeare, the Bard of Avon, like many others of his era, was a fan of astrology. The idea is that the lover's tragic fate was somehow written in the stars. In a memorable scene from the film, Gus confesses to Hazel, "I am in love with you. And I know that love is just a shout into the void, and that oblivion is inevitable, and that we are all doomed, and that one day all our labor will be returned to dust. And I know that the sun will swallow the only earth we will ever have, and I am in love with you." We would like to think the love we share with others on this earth is just as enduring. But considering our lot realistically, we know it to be otherwise. Take a walk through an old graveyard, one with the epitaphs on the stones, and you'll see expressions of love from people who haven't breathed this earthly air for decades or centuries perhaps. Their sentiments carved in stone live on, even though their love itself has long since been swallowed up by, and we trust, has been found perfected in the greater eternal love of God. As fascinating as the biblical account of the Bethlehem star is, and as awe-inspiring as are the constellations above the dark sky preserve, it's not the star we seek. The Magi weren't seeking the stars either, at least not ultimately. They valued their special star merely as a pointer to the child born King of the Jews. There's a fault in our stars, and not just in blinking sky train of satellites that is the Earth-like. The fault in our stars is whatever turns our attention away from the true star, the true North Star, he who is the source of everything good in our lives. Jesus. Let us seek him above all others. Not only this